Check one, check one. Welcome to the inaugural edition of Claydar Live. Figured that there was enough uncertainty that we just go ahead and hop on here and see what we can see in terms of how things are going to play out for tomorrow night. Usually I'm going to pop on here and do this kind of discussion when there's a pretty significant disagreement in what we're seeing, especially when things are changing rapidly. And I think the afternoon models, for anybody that's following along with those, have seen that change happen. Want to encourage anybody that's on the live stream, feel free to go ahead and post your comments, questions over there in that chat bar. I'll periodically check in here on the stream on the YouTube page so we can see that kind of stuff. And there we go. So the initial thing that I really want to talk about going into this is everybody has to understand that the models are sampling in real time upper air data as well as data at the surface. And the upper air data comes out twice a day, usually. If there's something crazy going on, they may launch a few special balloons. But for the most part, those balloons are launched at the 12 Zulu sounding and again at the 0 Zulu sounding, so early morning and late evening. So those afternoon model runs and the morning model runs do ingest less data. They do have satellite data. They look at the atmospheric temperature from that. They've got a lot of surface data, but specifically the upper air data is missing in the morning and the evenings. It's interpreted or interpolated from the prior model runs. So errors tend to compound. And even though they're going to say the verifications are just as good in the morning and the evening runs, traditionally we trust the noon and midnight runs more. And I say all of that for one reason, and that reason is thanks to this wonderful page. The College of DuPage has an amazing weather page that we can look at. And when I put this map into motion, you're going to see something that's really important here. And that, if I pop the telestrator up real quick, that's going to be this area right here. And that area is important because it's a snowpack, right? And that's going to make, you can see that the clouds kind of move across and the white stays on the ground there. That's going to make the ground level observations wrong. There's a lot of cold snow there that's keeping that air cold, but that doesn't represent the air mass that's moving through. So that's one of the initial problems, and it's going to impact that morning run and evening run of the models more than it's going to impact something like the noon or midnight runs, because those noon and midnight runs actually have balloon data. They have true sampling away from the ground to kind of get outside of that. So what's so different? I think everybody saw a lot of the noon runs and got really excited. I am particularly a fan, a huge fan of the SREFs, and it looks like this camera angle is not quite going to work, so we'll do it this way. The SREFs are cool because they're an integration of multiple models. They basically average out all of the ensemble runs as well as the production members of models, and they come out a little bit later than everything else. But right here, we're looking at the probability of 1 inch or more of snow, and I like it. I like what we're seeing here in Kentucky. There's a pretty good probability of snowfall there. And then we go to the 4-inch area. This is what people were really getting excited about. And keep in mind, this has got information in it from earlier in the day, right? This is an average of prior runs. This is what people got excited about, right? There's more than 50% chance of 4 inches of snow at some point up there in northern Kentucky. And as we move through, you actually see that area grow a little bit. Now, if that was the forecast, if that was what I was sticking with, we wouldn't be doing a live right now, because in my mind, you see 50% on the SREFs, things are a lock. That's pretty substantial evidence there for a good snow. But the afternoon runs of the models changed, and there's a lot of questions coming in on Twitter about what does the timing look like, or how likely are we to get a certain amount of snow in a certain place? So we're here to talk about those, basically. So the first thing we're going to look at is one of the models that was responsible for all of the hype earlier in the day is the NAM, and we'll go pick a better location to look at that. Mid-Atlantic's usually pretty good. So you all love to look at the snow maps, and I know for a fact that if I pop a snow map up here, somebody's going to latch onto that and say that was the forecast, and that's not the case. What we really tend to look at on these maps, and I'll actually go to the continental U.S. first, is the upper air setup. When we look at the upper air setup, it's a little bit of an eye chart, but essentially what you're looking for is energy dropping into the area, and this is a very different setup than a major low running up the Appalachian Mountains or something like that. This is more of a wave, so it's not quite as wrapped up as a low would be. And when we get into the time frame, we're talking late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, Zulu time, so Wednesday evening, our time, you do see quite a bit of energy over the area of Kentucky where you'd expect maybe a little low or something to pop. That's probably not going to happen. It's really swinging through too quick for that to happen, but it is good to see energy back here over Missouri, because this is where our snow is probably going to break out. There's going to be a little bit more precipitation, a little bit behind the main front that comes through, and that's the precipitation that's going to get caught by cold air that's charging in. So if we hop down to the surface and we take a look at our temperature map at the same time frame, you see a freezing line draped right across Kentucky. There's a big round high charging in from the plains, and southern air coming up, pushing a little bit of moisture into it. Translating that over to a precipitation map is going to show an event where the cold air is caught up to a pretty good rainstorm. We'll take a look at the evolution of that real quick. Again, showers break out early in the day, a little bit of rain starts to intensify, and then the cold air catches up with it. 0 Zulu is like 7 o'clock in the evening here. So as the sun sets, basically, the temperature is going to drop enough for there to be snow breaking out on this. So what's the problem with this model? I don't know. I actually like this run of the NAM, and that's why we went with it first. But we're going to take a look at some of these other models, and you'll see that the precipitation shield is actually a little bit further south, and they're a little bit less interested in accumulations. And it's a real fine line. The wrap here you see is keeping a little bit more rain in eastern Kentucky a little bit longer, and it's a little bit farther back here. This little bowl just going to keep that southern part of Kentucky in snow longer. The GFS is currently coming in, so we'll go take a look at it. Again, for the precipitation type map, very similar morphology. But now that we've looked at the upper levels, we know there's energy. Now that we've looked at the surface, we know there's moisture and temperature. We're going to go look at those snow maps. And this is where we get a little bit concerned. So we're going to look at 10 to 1. Good place to start. I think there's probably some Kuchera ratio on the backside of this, but rain directly over to snow 10 to 1. And this looks a little bit further south than it did earlier today. So this is the afternoon run. We'll switch over to the noon run. You can see the heaviest snows just a little bit further north. We'll go back to the morning run, and it's even a little bit further north. And we'll go back to last night's run, and you'll see that there's even a little hot spot showing up over there. So is this sinking south? That's the big question. Canadian, we'll go take a look over at it. Canadian's had it south through most of its runs, actually. You can kind of see it shooting across there. This was the run late last night. Now it broadens the precipitation out this morning. By lunch, it's looking very similar. And again, that lunch run is one that we're going to give a little more salt to. And the evening runs come back a little bit north. So you're seeing some convergence maybe. So the models that were north are coming south. The models that were south are going north a little bit. But this is not necessarily the kind of snow that the NAM was showing earlier. So we'll go look at the NAM map now. And this is the one that got everybody really excited. Right, and we'll see if we can go pop into Mid-Atlantic real quick, get a better view. Anytime you start seeing 6 inches show up on a snowfall map, that's reason to get excited. But you can kind of see that's a lot of moisture, man. That's like, broad brush 4 inches, 4 and 5 inches. I don't know that I agree with that. There's not quite that much moisture available, and it's certainly this purple stripe here is overdone, I think. I actually like the earlier run better, even though it's got a deeper snowpack, but just because this area in the southeast is lighter. Going back another run to this morning, you see something very similar. This is an East Coast storm. I don't think that's going to happen. I actually like this run the best. One of the things I lean heavily on is climatology. So is this storm doing what other storms have done in the past? And the most recent setup that I can think of that impacted me personally that was like this, 2014, I was getting a master's degree at NKU, went into a class, nothing in Alexandria. Was in class for an hour and a half and came out, and there were 6 inches, and it had stopped snow, and it was over. And driving back to Maysville, I caught up with it. And then that was a horrible drive. It's one that I will always remember. So, things are changing, and I don't really know where to lean. Do we get a northwest shift tomorrow? That's awful close. I really don't know that we get there. Is Lexington still in play for a decent amount of snow? Absolutely. I have no reason to believe that's not the case. What I do believe to be the case is that there's a broad brush 2 to 4 inches somewhere. And my problem there is that, the National Weather Service in Louisville did what they should do and put up a winter weather advisory. The National Weather Service in Jackson did what they should do and put up a winter weather advisory. And as I get ready to go and go completely off script here and break my stream, we're going to go look at weather.gov and see if we have a winter weather advisory in northern Kentucky, and we don't. So, what in those models said we didn't meet winter weather advisory criteria up there and in Charleston? Their criteria is 2 inches of snow expected in a 12-hour period. I think all those models showed that for northern Kentucky. Central Kentucky, certainly more. I don't know that we quite go 3 to 6 range down there. Somebody might break 4 inches down there. And all this, it's subject to change. So the biggest question now is, I think that the cold air catches it was one of the questions that was asked on Twitter. Absolutely. I think the cold air is there. All the modeling shows it. Yes, there's enough moisture for this to happen. I don't see this not happening somewhere in the state. Yes, I think it's a broad event. I don't think it's just constrained to one area. I think there might be 2 little streaks that show up somewhere. In my mind, those streaks show up along the Ohio River near Louisville and somewhere along 64 in eastern Kentucky. Traditionally, with this setup, that's where you see that. But the evening model runs did raise some questions. Is the snowpack existing on the ground affecting modeling? I think it is, especially considering it was the afternoon run that you saw the biggest change on. I think it'll be really interesting to see the late night run. And the second question, of course, is what does the Weather Service see that's different than everybody else? I think you've seen Louisville meteorologists talking about this on TV. I think you've seen Louisville Weather Service meteorologists talking about this. I think you've seen Lexington television meteorologists talking about this. I think you've seen Jackson National Weather Service meteorologists talking about this. I am here talking about this. So what's missing on those river counties? What are we missing? I don't know. Can't tell you. We're gonna hop over here real quick on the YouTube chat and see if there's any comments. So Casey Lockhart says nothing wrong with Island at least putting an advisory out to get folks' attention a bit, and that's really important. I agree 100% with that, because if you're putting out a hazardous weather outlook or you're putting out a special weather statement, something that's not a product, right? Something that's not got a headline, people aren't going to pay attention. If it's not going to set off the crawl on the TV screen, or it's not going to set off a weather radio, nobody's listening. And what's the difference between 1.5 inches and 2 inches of snow? What in our area differentiates those? It's not the plowability. Yeah, a winter storm putting down 4 inches of snow, some communities don't have plows that can handle that. But in this case, your job is to protect life and property, advise people that there's going to be winter weather, right? Can I get an amen? Bottom line, I think there's going to be an impactful winter storm across Kentucky. I do believe the I-64 corridor is probably going to be the best bet. I think that there's probably going to be some hot spots. Maybe I-71 back around Louisville somewhere could see a little bit extra action, mainly because they're going to spend the most time in the cold air. And then in eastern Kentucky, somewhere along I-64, Montgomery, Rowan, Carter County, somewhere in that area, probably also going to have a hot spot. Mainly because there's going to be more moisture over there, and it's going to be nighttime the whole time for them. So, it's here. I think it's going to be cool. If anything major changes tonight, I'll consider doing another live tomorrow evening. But in the meantime, we keep model watching, right? If nobody else has any questions over here on the chat, I'm going to shut it down. You've seen what I've seen. Keep an eye on those SREFs. 21Z SREFs come out tonight. I think those are rarely wrong. I really like to follow the SREFs. And, keep an eye on the NAM. I think the NAM's wet. Everybody knows the NAM usually has too much moisture, but its placement's been really good recently. and the wrap had a jog south in the last run, but it happens in the evening runs. Keep an eye on those fresh sample points. Keep an eye on what that upper level energy is doing. Work from the upper levels down to the surface, and you've got a forecast. So keep model watching. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me over on Facebook, Claydar Weather, and let me know what you thought about this. If it's cool, we'll do another one.